I'm Aaron Perry. I am an alderman in the city of Waukesha, District 12. I'm also the marketing and PR manager here at VACK Regency at 280 Regency Court. It's also the home of the VACK Group, which is a real estate investment company investing in our area and many others. It's also the home of Malkin Solutions, which is an international and nationwide consulting group improving both small and large business processes and training. We've done a lot of interviews here in this area here, and I'm really thrilled to be with Bobby Tanzilo. I used to work at onMilwaukee.com.
We're reunited.
Yeah, we're reunited. So getting to sit down with this gentleman here, who's been on Milwaukee for 18 years. He's the senior editor there, giving great news and positive news to our region, and something that I have, trying to further promote. So thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. We're going to talk about a variety of stuff today, but first, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm not a native Milwaukeean, actually. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. So I just find myself as sort of a Brooklyn kid and a Milwaukee adult. I did all of my schooling through high school in New York City, and then I moved here and went to college here and stayed ever since. When I got here, I thought I was going to do 2 years and then go back. And then, as John Lennon said, life's what happens when you're busy making plans, right?
Yeah.
So I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I've been working in media since I was in college, actually. I was at UWM in the mass communication department, and I got a job at the Milwaukee Sentinel while I was still in college.
Okay.
And I was there for 5 years, then went and worked at a local bookseller for a few years, doing media relations and publicity and that kind of thing, but still kept writing and doing freelancing in between. In 2000, I started it on Milwaukee, and I've been there ever since. It was at the time, it was about a year and a half old. And I thought when I left the job, I'm leaving this secure job for this internet thing that who knows what's going to happen, right? But if nothing else, it gets me out of my routine and forces me to do something else, right? And interestingly enough, 18 years later, onMilwaukee is doing better than ever, and the bookstore no longer exists.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's kind of crazy.
I'm going to ask you about a variety of stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
As we always do, I'll get to the three fun questions at the end, although I find all the other questions fun as well.
So it's not torture and then fun?
No, it's going to be good. Yeah, so onMilwaukee, when they started, am I correct? It was 1998?
1998, yes. 20 years this year.
Okay.
And I believe it's 20 years this month.
Yeah, right. I think it is. Yeah.
And it was Andy and Jeff and another guy kind of at their kitchen tables, amazing. And then when they got some investors, they started to hire other people, and they hired me and a programmer at the same time. So we were the first employees that did not actually own the place.
Okay. Did Molly come on?
She came on. I had actually known Molly. Molly
Snyder.
Yes, Molly Snyder was my boss at the YMCA. When I worked at the bookshop, I worked at nights at the YMCA, and she was my boss at the YMCA. And when I worked for her at the Y, I remember her coming to me and saying, I really want to write. What should I do? And so I sort of suggested some people she could talk to, some other writers who were members of the gym that she knew, and she got going. And so when the opportunity came...
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, and when the opportunity came to hire more people for onMilwaukee, she was definitely somebody I was happy to have come aboard. And she's been amazing, unspeakably amazing. I mean, she just has such a great eye, a great ear for stories, and really good. I tend to write about.
She's awesome.
I write about things, really, sort of, and she writes about people, and she's really good at writing about people. She's really good at that.
So let me ask you this. This is kind of a follow-up question that we didn't talk about previously. What was the internet like in 1998 when you're trying to print stuff on the internet?
When I started at onMilwaukee, they had just launched an articles editor, like a back end where you could just sort of plug stuff in and it would dynamically appear on the pages. But even then, I still had to learn enough HTML to kind of figure out some stuff. But I know that before I started there, they were just sort of hand coding every single page. So if they wanted an article, they had to create the page, write out all the HTML, embed, do the article. Like all of that was done by hand. Every page was like a static page.
Interesting.
So it was almost, in a sense, it was almost like to an analogy back in the day of newspapers when they actually had to like get composing sticks and lay out the type for a story. That was sort of the equivalent. So when I started, luckily, I started when they had already built this dynamic thing, so where you just sort of plug in the stuff and hit sort of go, and it displays it the way it should display on the page. So
Interesting.
So we don't really have, I know some HTML from my days there, but other people who work as writers at onMilwaukee don't really know HTML because they don't have to. It's all so much more dynamic now.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we probably could have embedded videos and all that kind of stuff. But again, if you wanted a picture somewhere, you wrote out the code for the photo and you actually put it where you wanted it. Now it's just much easier than that. So it's changed completely. We can do things so much more quickly now than we could.
Well, of course. Yeah.
And of course, my cell phone now is probably more powerful than the computer that I was using the day I started.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Yeah. The phones we have in our pockets are now just computers.
I know. I think my grandfather died in December of 2015, and he was 101 years old, and he had a cell phone. He had a smartphone. When he died.
Wow.
And he grew up in Italy in a hill town, did farming and stuff. And I like to think about the changes he saw in his lifetime. When you think about he grew up with horses, doing the work in the fields, and ended up by the end of his life he had a computer in his pocket and he knew how to use it. Isn't that amazing? The things that a person like that saw in the 20th century.
Yeah. Several light bulbs going
on
in my head right now. Yep, I agree with you. That perspective, I think, is very important. So I have a variety of topics I want to go through.
Okay.
Actually, but before I get to those,
you're going to do the fun questions first, aren't you?
No. I always do those at the end. What's your favorite story you've written for onMilwaukee? Oh
my gosh. There's so many, but there's one I always kind of go back to that I've sort of I write a lot of stories, these urban spelunking stories, which are stories that are sort of architecture, sort of history, sort of people stories, and all. I mean, each one sort of defines itself.
Nice job of transition.
What's there? You like that? Sorry. Yes. But this is one of those stories, and what I've come to realize is that, and I tell this to everybody, is that every building in Milwaukee has a story. I have never, ever gone to, and I've done like 300 of these stories. I've never gone to a place and thought, what am I going to say about this place? And I've been to all kinds of places, houses, I've been to firehouses, schools, landmarks, just all kinds of buildings. And I've never, ever struggled to find a story in one of them.
Well, you've emailed me about underground areas in Waukesha.
Oh, yeah. Just fun stuff. But this one was a building that was just north of the Bradley Center until recently. It got torn down to build the arena.
Okay.
The new arena. And it was at the meeting place of two alleys north of the Bradley Center. It was just a 2-story brick building. And I always thought it looked interesting. I don't know why. It just looked sort of interesting. It looked sort of ragged. The bricks looked super old. It had what looked like sort of a barn door in it. And at the Bradley Center, they called it the North building because it was north of the North building. And it had just been a storage building. They just threw stuff in there that they didn't need, but didn't want to get rid of.
Okay.
So I said, can I see inside? And they were like, yeah, there's nothing to see, but you can see inside. So they let me go inside. And when I went inside, I noticed on one of the upper doors, on the inside, was a sticker of the Usinger's elf that's running and sort of trailing a string of sausages behind him. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And there was an apartment up there.
Okay.
And there was an apartment that was just the paint was peeling off the ceilings, but it was obviously empty for a long time. So anyway, it turns out that this place was built as the stables for Usingers for when they had their horse-drawn delivery carts. And then it was then it became a garage once they went to motorized cars. But they also had this apartment upstairs, and there was an employee there named Art, who was a salesman, and Art moved into this apartment with his family, little kids and his wife. And Art's son Lloyd was still alive. And Lloyd was, I mean, he's still alive, he's in his 90s. He runs some of those little parking lots near the Bradley Center. So he lived in this house for decades of his life. He grew up in this house. And I met him at his house out on the west side. And because it was near where I live, I stopped over to get some photographs one day. And I brought my kids. And they were going to wait in the car, and he saw them, and he said, "Oh, they have to come in." And he had them come in, and they sat on the couch. He brought out a bowl of candy for them, and he showed me these pictures of him with his little dog when this building that was now the North building was like plastered on the outside. It had a lawn and a white picket fence around it. And he proceeded to tell me about growing up in this house where there had been this neighborhood that was no longer really there because it was torn down for the various arenas and stuff. And it ended up becoming a story about Lloyd and about this neighborhood that was there and had disappeared. And to me, that was like the perfect example of what one of these stories should be. Like, it's a cool building, something people see, and when it ran, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I recognize that place. I've always thought about that place," but then they kept walking, you know.
Sure.
And I just decided one day not to keep walking, and I looked, and it turned out, like every building in Milwaukee, there was an amazing story inside. And so that's one that always comes to mind as one of the favorites.
Yeah, and you know, I want to talk to you about onMilwaukee and their staff,
Yeah,
the company. And I think what you just encompassed actually transitions well into what the media's role is in politics and regional cooperation.
Mhm.
We can couple those, you know, in whatever shape we choose to.
Yeah.
But choosing to make things about people rather than a position.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Or, you know, politics is great.
Yeah.
I don't shy away from saying I'm a politician.
Yeah.
I am.
You do that word good service. You
Thank
do
you.
it justice.
But talk to me a little bit about what you think the media's role is, being a person in that realm, and shaping that properly for the people that read what you write.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of feel like the media's role is what our individual role is, and that's to be open-minded and to be fair and to understand that, which I didn't understand when I was younger, but I understand now, is there's black and there's white, but there's a whole lot of gray in the middle, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's easy to just, and especially now with Twitter, and I don't blame Twitter, I mean, I love Twitter, I use it all the time, but it has helped us by forcing us to distill things into very short statements. It has, maybe it hasn't forced us to do it, but it has encouraged or allowed us to just jump. You can't put the gray in 140 characters, can you? You can only put the black or the white.
Very
right?
true.
So I feel like,
very true.
you know, the responsibility of all of us as people is to understand the gray. It's easy to just say, I'm left, you're right, I'm white, you're black,
So
whatever.
is that a new hashtag? Understand the gray.
Yes, understand the gray. You may have that.
All right.
But you know what I
You
mean?
may see that later.
I feel like everything is far more complicated than people want it to be, but it's the reality of it. And I think it's our duty as the media to explain that to people, to help people understand that. And, you know, as much as sometimes I might want to say white or black, you know, I think it's our responsibility to explain the gray. Is your other hashtag?
There you go. Understand the gray. Well, speaking of,
Did I do an end run around your question?
no,
Well enough for that?
no, that was
Because I've become, you know, I mean, I have my beliefs, but I don't generally tweet much about politics. I don't post politics on Facebook that much. It's you know, I'm not really looking to squirt the lighter fluid onto the grill more than I have to.
Yeah, I only do on occasion.
Yeah. But I mean, anybody who knows me knows what I think. I mean, I'm not shy about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like some things, you know, but you were going to ask something, but I feel like some things, and this is going to transition into one of the other things we're going to talk about, are force people to be political. like public education. I am a big supporter of public education. I'm
Okay.
a product of
All
public schools. My parents are a product of public schools. My kids go to public school. And I feel like in being a supporter of public education forces you to be political. Sometimes other people force you to be political about it. I mean, it's the way, the climate that there were.
Why do you think it's, I'm sorry, why do you think it's political, say in Wisconsin?
Oh, it's especially political in Wisconsin, isn't it? Because you have voucher and charter supporters that tend to be on one side of the political spectrum, and public school supporters who often tend to be on the other side of the political spectrum. But again, that's the black and white, right? Because it's all kinds of gray there in the middle. I know plenty of people who work in charter schools that completely support public education. Some of them may support vouchers, some of them don't support vouchers. You know what I mean? And there's people, your kids go to public school, right?
Yeah.
And you would probably describe yourself as a conservative, probably more than I would.
Sure.
And yet we both have this in common, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you would think that
Yeah.
that if I said you're conservative and I'm liberal, that would mean that I support public schools and you don't. But it doesn't work that way, right?
No, I support public schools.
Right. I mean, so it's a complicated issue, But when you have kids in public school and say the governor cuts funding, it makes it political for you, doesn't it? I mean, you don't want it to necessarily, but and that's part of the climate, and it hasn't always been that way, right? I mean, it's partially the climate that we're in now with everything, not just public schools, right? Politically, I mean, everything is black or white. And this suffers from that same.
So to me, I promise I'm transitioning to another topic, but I think this is important to address.
Yeah.
Because I find you to be very intelligent, and some people
I'm glad someone does.
think I am. But public education and healthcare, those are the two things that it pains me that it's become political.
Yeah.
That just because you vote a certain way, that you don't believe in something.
Yeah.
And I think those are two topics. One, I know that you're educated on. That it pains me that we politicize that.
Well, and I feel like these are two subjects that are sort of, they're not written into the Constitution. Everybody has a right to a free public education. Everybody has a right to to healthcare in the richest country in the world. But I feel like our tradition as a country has been to respect those as perhaps unwritten rights. I mean, since the early part of the 19th century, really into the middle part of the 19th century, public education has been free and open to pretty much everyone. You can argue about segregation and all sorts of other things,
Sure.
but it's been available more or less to everyone.
Okay.
And that's never really been an issue until now. It seems like it's a war zone over some people even wondering whether or not it's a right for people to have free and open education. And I will say what I love about public schools is that the kids, from a philosophical standpoint, I love the fact that it's this tradition where poor kids, rich kids, middle class kids all learn to be Americans. They learn their civic duty. They learn, all that sort of thing on a philosophical standpoint. From a practical standpoint, I love the fact that my kids go to school every day with kids who represent the world around them. They go to school with black kids, brown kids, white kids, red-haired kids, kids who speak English, kids who speak Spanish, kids who speak French, kids who speak Arabic, Russian. We have at least one Danish-speaking family in our school.
Awesome.
There are kids from every neighborhood in the city. It's a citywide school, so kids can come from anywhere, although there is a walk zone, so it's heavily that neighborhood, but not entirely that neighborhood. They're being raised unknowingly. They're being raised to live in the world that they're going to live in.
Yeah.
They have to learn to understand kids with accents. They have to learn to be friends with people. And you know what? They don't even have to learn it. They just do it. I mean, I make it sound like it's work, but to them, it's not work. They don't, any of the kids that they go to school with, skin color or anything like that is just like, to them, it's just like a way to describe somebody the same way you say, oh, that's the red-haired kid, or that's the blue-eyed kid, or that's the brown-skinned girl, or that's the, like, they don't, it doesn't come with any of the baggage that adults assign to all of that stuff.
I agree.
And
Honestly, I couldn't agree with
so I just hope that the lessons they learned there don't get untaught to them after.
Yeah.
Don't get
Well, that's what kind of, in some ways, the role of the media plays. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's what they're
Well,
gonna
and the
see.
people around them.
Yeah,
right?
the people around them, what they're going to see on TV. And I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm remiss if I don't share. So my son, and you may have seen this on Facebook already, but he snuck out of bed last night. My wife was traveling for work, and he sneaks out of bed and he's reading books.
Yeah.
In the hallway.
Yeah.
And he shared with me that he read books with another kid in his class who has autism like his brother. And he read 3.5 books with him.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of, we don't need those barriers.
Right, and where did he do that? He did that in a public school
Yes,
in Wisconsin, in
Yes,
Waukesha,
with
with an African-American principal who is just about the greatest person you'll ever meet, right?
yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
I like him a lot.
Public school.
Well, that's a good transition.
All right.
Let's go.
And we avoided all of the really hot button issues on that this week, which is okay.
Regional cooperation.
That falls into the same thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm gonna just tee this up and let you talk what you want to say about it.
Yeah.
I have plenty of thoughts, but this is we want to hear from you.
Okay. Well, I live in Milwaukee, so I mean, again, this is the black, this is the white, and we have to think about the gray that's in the middle, right? I feel like the two cities have never really cooperated like they should, have never really gotten together like they should. And what I love about, there's this thing that goes on that I don't know if you've talked about this at all on here that you helped start, or maybe you started it by yourself, I don't know. But you got some Milwaukee politicians together, aldermen, and you started having these, and a then Wauwatosa alderman.
And West Dallas.
And West Dallas, right, Mike and me. And Cudahy, right? And you guys started meeting every week. Every month, I'm sorry. And New Berlin. And you started to invite other people, including me.
Yeah.
And we go and we have lunch. We take turns going to each place. We've been to West Dallas, we've been to Waukesha, we've been to Milwaukee, we've been to Tosa, we've been making the rounds. And you know what? We all sit and we realize that we all sit in the gray, don't we? We don't. You from Waukesha and Ashanti and Bobby Pantuso and Michael May, you're not saying this subject is white, this subject is black. We're all just being people, right?
Did you just?
We're living in the gray, right? I mean, we're all right.
There's your hashtag.
Hashtag living in the gray, right? We smile, we laugh, we tell jokes.
Yes.
Right? Because it doesn't matter that there are things that we don't agree on. What matters is that there's all that stuff in the middle that we do agree on. That we're all people, we all love Wisconsin, and we all love our communities, and we all want the best for Waukesha, for West Dallas, for Cudahy, for New Berlin, for Milwaukee, for Wauwatosa. And the way to get there is for all of us to work together. Not for some of us to say we're on this white side, we're on this black side, we're on this left side, we're on this right side.
Yeah.
We're all there figuring out where we overlap. Right? And I don't know, I can't say if anything concrete has come from it yet, but
we're getting there.
But we're getting there, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. And early on, when I think you and Ashanti collaborated on an op-ed from Milwaukee. In January. And initially, I think it was pitched to me that I should write a story about the regional cooperation. And I was skeptical because I'm in Milwaukee, right? I was living on one side, I was in the white, we were in the black, right? And I didn't see it. And then you guys wrote that thing together and I saw it. You guys wrote the gray. And here we are, right?
Boy. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, so that's what I love about it. I love that we don't have any agenda. We're not like, okay, we're gonna solve the water issues, we're gonna solve transportation issues, although I sure hope all of that stuff happens.
Yeah.
You know, but we're gonna get there by doing this, right? And by getting more people to do this and to go off on their own and do it. They don't have to be part of our little group. Start your own group. And, you know, hopefully these things grow into when there's a phone call that needs to be made, Shanti knows who to call in Waukesha, doesn't he? And he feels comfortable calling you, and vice versa. And I'd say Pantuso, but he's not an alderman anymore. So
He's still.
I'm just kidding.
And we have Allison.
He's an influential guy, nonetheless, and a fun guy.
Yeah, that's been quite an eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
And, what I've always said is it's spiraled out of control in a good way.
In such a good way, though, right?
No.
Yeah.
So with business owners and CEOs and members of the media.
And I love that you've done that. You've opened it up to everybody. It's not just a handful of aldermen, you know, people with arguably with their hands on the levers of power. You know, like you've brought in other people.
Well, I think because we all have a role in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just people that get to vote on something.
Yeah.
I think we all have a role in influence, impact.
Right.
And having an opinion. And that's okay.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right. I agree with you. We're in the gray here.
we're in the,
I was going to keep hammering that home now that
we
we've
might as
discovered
well get the hashtag going.
Yeah.
All right. So one more topic I want to talk about. And then we'll get to the 3 fun.
Oh, okay.
As if this
is it going to be more fun than this?
As if this wasn't fun already. So onMilwaukee and their staff, you've been there 18 years. You're a senior editor.
I've seen him come, I've seen him go.
Right, yeah, and we discussed that. But talk a little bit about what onMilwaukee does, what you do,
okay,
and what you feel their role is in the media community. Because as far as the internet goes, you guys are number 2 in the state.
Yeah.
So.
Which is pretty impressive for an independent company that is still an independent company.
Absolutely.
And I think part of that is, like I said, I've seen people come and I've seen people go, but you know, we've always had people who were dedicated and strong, and we have a really good group right now, especially the sort of public-facing group. You know, the writers basically. I mean, Molly is everybody knows Molly.
Yep.
Right. I mean, Lori has got to be just about the best food critic Milwaukee's seen, if not ever, at least in a really long time.
I've actually conversed with her recently. Yeah.
Yeah. And
branching out to Waukesha.
Matt Miller is Gene Miller's son, which I don't assume they're going to be saying Gene Miller is Matt Miller's dad. And
wait,
did you not know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh wow!
But he's got such a strong personality. He's super funny. Really, his writing always shows that.
Makes a whole lot of sense.
Insanely knowledgeable about film and about pop culture. And every week he manages to suffer through at least one ridiculously long episode of The Bachelor and write about it.
Oh,
in his
that's
own
right.
inimitable way.
He's big into that, isn't he?
And then Carolyn Boozer, who is not entirely behind the scenes, but mostly behind the scenes, has done a really great job.
Yeah, I wouldn't call her behind the scenes.
No, she does a lot of Facebook Lives and stuff now too. But I mean, for a lot of she doesn't write as much as we do, so people don't see her name as much. But she is, again, a strong personality, great personality for the Facebook Lives and that stuff. And she does an amazing job with social media and just kind of keeping it all together. So we have a really strong staff. And I mean, we focus on entertainment, of course, but we're not just that. We do a lot of sports. We've always done a lot of sports. We've had some political commentators come and go. You know, we do a lot of city-related stuff. I just wrote about the bridge in Lake Park that's been closed for 4 years and hopefully is reopening soon, thanks to a grant from the state. We do a lot of that. I personally read a lot of, when we talk about this urban spelunking stories, mostly that kind of thing. History, architecture, a lot of that. We do music, we do all kinds of, tons of food, of course. We're super active on social media as a company, but also individually. So we have a good presence that way.
That's true. Yeah, you guys all, that's the one thing I think is unique to onMilwaukee is onMilwaukee is huge.
Yeah.
Exposure wise, but every one of you has your own avenues.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Your own streets that you pave.
Yeah, and some of us as individuals, a lot of us have more followers on Twitter than some of the other media entities in Milwaukee. But I mean, that's how big the reach is, which is impressive, I think, for a company that has never had the power of a big company behind it. It's always just been sort of a scrappy, independent company.
Yeah.
Which you know from having been on the inside.
I was gonna say from having worked in that office with you guys and listening, that was the more fascinating parts of working there was listening to the editorial.
Oh yeah.
Back and forth between everybody.
Well, that's the good thing is everybody is passionate about what they do too. Like we all get along and we love each other, but we're also passionate about what we do. So it's fun to hear the discussions about even mundane things. Like we had this ongoing discussion of that like half the world doesn't whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich. It's
I
meat between
remember.
bread,
Yep.
So that led somebody to say is a Pop-Tart.
Is not a sandwich.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay.
But then that led somebody to say is a Pop-Tart a ravioli.
What?
Yeah. So it goes on and on.
You can laugh too.
These can go on. These can go on for hours. But
hold on. All right.
Well, it's a filling wrapped in dough, isn't it?
But that doesn't define.
Is it a pierogi? Maybe it's a pierogi. We're in Wisconsin, right? So maybe it's more likely a pierogi than a. But I digress.
Read that article, maybe. Do that.
It's coming. Dining month is coming to Milwaukee in October, so you'll be able to hear lots of little arguments like this.
Okay. All right. Well, now some fun questions. As if we haven't had fun already.
We've had fun. Is it going to get more fun?
Well, the first one is directly towards you.
Okay.
Sports.
Sports. I'm not a big sports guy. I love baseball. But there are no other sports I really follow with any kind of interest.
I'm going to ask you.
A little bit soccer, but not much.
You're from New York.
Yes. One does not change one's fandom. I will just say as a lead into this.
Yep, and that's okay. And
you know this because you are not from Milwaukee.
Right.
I mean, I root for the Brewers. I love the Brewers. I always say I hope the Brewers go 155-7 every year. Right? It's not going to happen.
I hope people know what that means.
Yes, it means they play the Mets. It means they play the New York Mets 7 times each year.
And they lose every time.
And no, they don't. But I hope they do. And then I hope they win every other game.
Yeah, I'm a Cardinals fan.
Yes.
But I know you're
I'm a Mets fan.
A Mets fan.
Since about 4.
But tell me this. What are your top 3 Mets athletes of all time and why?
Oh, that's easy. Oh, I think that's easy. One, well, narrowing it down to 3 is going to be hard. Okay, I'm going to go with Tom Seaver because you have to go with Tom Seaver because he was
I'm going to write these down.
Such an amazing player and competitor. And we're going to go back to the same theme here, but always a good guy. Like everybody would always tell you what a good guy he was.
Okay.
Never he's on Twitter now. He tweets himself about he owns a vineyard in California. He doesn't pay somebody to tweet for him.
Rough life.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like he played before baseball players made what they make now.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he made more money than my dad who was a cop, but he was not a millionaire.
Yeah.
When he was playing, probably.
Yeah.
So I will say Tom Seaver. Tom terrific. Mookie Wilson.
Okay.
I always love Mookie Wilson because, again, you will not find a single person who will say a bad thing about Mookie Wilson. And he was that spark plug kind of player that always gave it his all. Perfect leadoff hitter, just scrappy, got on base any way he could, always smiling. Every picture you see of Mookie, he's smiling. Love Mookie. And I will say David Wright, which you know probably yesterday, he said that He's going to come back for one game on September 29th, and then that's going to be his last game. He's going to retire. He has not played in 2.5 years.
I like him a lot.
Because he's had spinal stenosis, which I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the narrowing of the spinal column. There is no cure for it. So he has spent that started more than 2.5 years ago because he has had a few ups and downs with that before he had stopped. And I shouldn't even say he stopped because he never stopped. Since he's had it, it's got to be probably 4 years by now. He has been constantly trying to come back. He's been working nonstop to come back. Training, getting therapies, getting like medical treatments, all kinds of things, because he loves the game so much. He doesn't want to give up.
Is he the best third baseman of the Mets ever?
He might be, yeah, he might be. Although he's like his numbers tanked in the last couple of years because he kept playing through this spinal stenosis.
Yeah.
And some of that was before they diagnosed what it actually was. But he has this condition that ultimately I think can make you unable to walk. I mean, and instead of saying, I'm done, he's tried for 4 or more years to overcome it, to play with it. And he's one of those guys that is always given it his all, always the clubhouse leader, the guy who's the team captain because he was the guy in the clubhouse that everybody looked up to, everybody trusted, everybody believed in, everybody would follow. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see him go. I mean, I think we've all really known because he hasn't been able, his attempts to deal with it and then come back were failures. And now it's been 2.5 years that he's been trying again. So I think deep down we all knew it was coming, but nobody wanted to believe it was over.
All
but
right.
It does free up somebody on the 40-man roster.
So we know who to ask about Mets baseball.
Yes.
Bobby here.
And then I'm going to add Choo Coleman, who was part of the expansion Mets. That's number 4, I know, but he was picked up in the expansion draft. He was a catcher on one of the worst teams in baseball history, the 1962 Mets. And he was one of those guys that spoke Yogi Berra-isms. Like when people were trying to interview him, he was speaking in some sort of bizarre lingo that nobody ever really understood. And he ended up being completely hilarious and just completely lovable. And he just died 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I stuck in it.
Boy.
And I got all the eras that way, right? I got the early 60s, late 60s, early 70s. I got the 80s.
Yeah, way to go. Man, you got them all in there.
All
All right, so I'm going to ask you a travel question.
Oh, I love that.
And then a music question.
Okay.
Okay? Travel.
As much as possible.
So, actually, let's go from New York to Los Angeles. You have an RV.
Yeah.
You have 3 celebrities to travel with. Who are they?
Wow, 3 celebrities to travel with. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of celebrities. I'd like to take my kids. Can I take my kids?
No, I'm asking the question.
Celebrities.
I'm saying celebrities.
Who would be good traveling celebrities?
That's the more fun part.
Yeah. Jeez.
Because anybody could say kids or my wife or stuff like that.
Yeah. God, celebrities. Maybe I should take David Wright, although he would probably suffer through sitting those long extended periods of time. Oh, I'm going to take Mookie Wilson because he is going to make me laugh because he's funny. This is a tie into the last question, right? I'm taking Mookie Wilson for sure because that would be super fun. Right? Okay. And I'm going to take.
Here's a little follow-up just to give a little context. And I asked this before. So you're stopping in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
To get gas.
Okay. Can we look around while we're there?
Of the 4 people that are there, you, the other 3, who's getting gas? Who's paying for it? And who's the most fun to be with?
Well, Mookie's the most fun to be with.
Okay.
Who's getting the gas?
Who's pumping the
It's probably
gas?
going to be me pumping the gas, right? These other guys are celebrities. They don't pump their own gas, do they? Oh, Mookie probably pumps his own gas. Okay, so I still need 2 more celebrities, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'm going to pick Paul Weller from the Jam in Style Council, now a solo artist. Paul Weller. His new record is out today. There's a plug for him. He doesn't need it from me. But he's been somebody I've been a big fan of since I was about 12. Followed everything he's done. I go see him every time he comes to Chicago.
Okay.
Because he's never come here. I'm gonna take him because he's gonna be crabby the whole time, but he is gonna have the best music collection. The music is gonna be great
Okay,
the whole way.
all right,
Uh,
that's fair enough.
super diverse tastes, loves music of all kinds. He's gonna bring like mixtapes like you wouldn't believe. Okay.
But
Third
he's
person.
crabby the whole time?
Yeah, he's an English guy, who doesn't necessarily want to be in Wichita, Kansas. Yeah, but,
Well,
and he's gonna be smoking
or
like a chimney.
Nebraska,
He's gonna
or
be a chimney. He's gonna be
Ohio,
smoking like a chimney, but that's okay. We'll move on. All right, third celebrity. This is already an interesting group. I am gonna say
this is how you know that
this
I
is so
don't,
hard.
I don't pre-do these questions.
Well, this is so hard just because I don't really follow. I don't have like favorite actors, and I don't really follow celebrities that much. I mean, I do. I've got some favorite actors like Bobby De Niro, but other famous person. Maybe I should bring a politician, but he's not going to pump the gas either, is he?
Usually when I ask these questions, it's the person who's on the couch who's usually pumping the gas.
Right.
So,
Because they're celebrities. They don't want to pump. You can't invite them along and then make them pump the gas, especially since you're making them pay for it, right?
well, hypothetically, I'm paying for the whole trip.
You are?
Yes, yes,
Amazing. When do we go?
next month.
All right. I'm really struggling with the third celebrity because this is just me killing time while I try to think of a third celebrity. All right, there's got to be somebody really cool. Oh, we could bring that guy, the guy from TV, James Corden, because then he could do one of those karaoke with Paul Weller, and that will be fun.
That's maybe the best answer to any question I've had.
I'm not even a huge fan of the guy, but did you say what he did with Paul Weller? I mean,
No.
with Paul McCartney. I'm sorry. With
No,
Paul
I
McCartney.
didn't. I'm
You
just
have
a
to see
big fan of James Corden.
You have to see the Paul McCartney karaoke what he did.
I struggle every night to stay awake enough to watch.
I heard he cried when he did the one with Stevie Wonder or something.
You're kidding.
No. Okay, so James Corden. I'm not necessarily a huge James Corden fan, but I think he would be fun. He would be fun to have in the car, and he would be fun. He's also funny, so that would be good. And
doesn't he seem like
he would love Paul. Since he's from Britain, he would love Paul Weller just again.
Okay. Doesn't he seem like the kind of guy that would get you out of trouble if you were in?
Yes, he'd be the funny guy that gets you out of trouble.
Right.
Right. He would manage to joke you out of trouble while the rest of you ran to the car.
I can
And
tell
then,
you it happens.
swung open the
in
door and let
Midwest,
him
from here and there.
Yeah.
You can get in trouble.
Yeah. So that was not the kind of travel question I thought you were going to ask. That's good.
That's
It was a little painful, but it was good.
okay.
It was probably more painful for people watching.
No, all good. Yeah. Well, I don't ask questions to get stock answers.
Yeah.
So, well, then the last one, music.
Music. Something I've been doing a long time.
What's your next concert?
I don't know. My next concert is I can tell you what my most recent concert was, which was completely unexpected. The other day, my wife was listening to a song she likes, and a thing popped up on the screen saying this group is on tour. And she sent me a message saying, "You want to go see Stereophonics in Chicago?" I'm like, "Sure." What I didn't notice was that it was that day. And we had soccer practice, the kids' soccer practice until 6:30, and the show was at 7:30 in Chicago. And I said, "Well, do you want to go?" She said, "Maybe." And then we got home, and dinner was on the table for the kids, and she said, "Let's go." And I grabbed a chicken cutlet and a napkin, and we ate it in the car, and we drove down to Chicago, set the kids up with the neighbor. And
Okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah,
So what are the kids doing?
No, they're and one of them's old enough anyway, but the neighbor was involved, so that's good.
Okay.
And we drove to Chicago as if we were, I don't know, 20, 25,
Oh,
and
that's
we parked right outside. Managed to park like as close to right outside the venue as you can in Chicago. Ran in, bought a ticket. They had started like 10 or 15 minutes before. We saw the whole show. We got in the car, we drove home. And I was like, wow, who are we? We're the old us.
What are you, like 28?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You know,
Right. Yeah.
like superstars to other parents.
Wow.
But it was fun, super fun. So Stereophonics was our most recent show. The next show,
Or what's the next
I
show
can't
you want
think
to
of
see at the new Bucks Arena?
I'm trying to think who's coming. Oh, I've never seen Pink. I'd be interested in seeing Pink. I've not generally been a huge Pink fan, but when she played at Summerfest, Lori Frederick, who is our food writer, but also she wrote an amazing review of the Pink show, which Pink herself thanked her for on social media, deservedly so.
Okay.
And I go to a gym class where occasionally the music they play is by Pink, and I'm like, okay, I kind of like this. So I'd be very curious to see her, and I know she's coming for sure.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Pink.
Yeah.
I think she's very talented.
Yeah. So I would see
Justin Timberlake would be my preference.
Really?
Yeah, if I see him, yeah.
Yeah.
I looked at tickets with her.
That's a problem.
Well, Steve.
Well, that was the
But
good
the-
thing
but
about
the-
the
but the
Stereophonics
arena-
tickets. They
but the
were
arena is
reasonably priced.
fantastic.
Yes, amazing.
Have you been in there?
I was inside when they were putting the roof on.
Okay.
I've not been inside since.
Yeah, I went to the open house. I took my oldest son. He's 6, and yeah, it was. I can't wait to see a Bucks game there.
I would have gone to the open house, but I was traveling because travel as much as you can is what I say.
Yeah, good idea. Anything else you want to add?
I think that was great. We've covered everything. I don't know that anything else exists.
Yeah, I think we did a nice job today.
I think so.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman.
You know,
Flip-flop guy.
visit onMilwaukee.com. Bobby's all of his writings, and have a great day.